solution than the one of two states, living side by side in peace and security. We simply should do more to prevent history from repeating itself. For now, peace is nowhere near. I resume my function as President of the Council. I now give the floor to the permanent observer of the Observer State of Palestine.
Mr. President, allow me at the beginning, to begin by commending Slovenia for its term on the Council. You have shown determination and courage, and you have been relentless in upholding the principles you pledged to honor, including the very moving statement that you just delivered. The Palestinian people will not forget what you stood for during your time on this council. I also wish to express our gratitude to the other outgoing members. Nothing that the elected members, the E10, have over the past 2 years demonstrated unprecedented leadership in the pursuit of a ceasefire to save lives, to save humanity, and to salvage international law on the path towards just and lasting peace. I will begin with Algeria, the Arab representative on the Council and a country close to the heart of every Palestinian, the country where we declared our independence. And I am proud that I was a young politician, member of the PNC, that was in that session, and I participated in the voting for the declaration of independence of the state of Palestine. And thank Algeria for its unwavering solidarity. Guyana has been among the strongest voices on this council, matching the powers of its words with the courage of its deeds. Sierra Leone has been a steadfast defender of international law, the expression of our shared humanity. And the Republic of Korea has been a consistent advocate for a ceasefire and for peace. All served with commitment to the Charter and the responsibilities of serving on the Council. We welcome the incoming elected members, Bahrain, Colombia, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Latvia, and Liberia, and look forward to working with them to advance justice, freedom, and peace in the Middle East and beyond. Mr. President, I thank the Deputy Special Coordinator, Zamir Al-Akbarov, for his briefing and relentless efforts on the ground. Through him, we extend our condolences to the United Nations for the UN personnel killed in the line of duty and reaffirm our deep appreciation for the indispensable role of the United Nations under the leadership of the brave, principled Secretary General Antonio Guterres. The International Court of Justice has clearly determined Israel's obligations as the occupying power, including its duty to facilitate humanitarian relief by the United Nations and its agencies, including UNRWA, rather than obstruct their work, continuing to deprive the Palestinian people of life-saving assistance. Israel's response to the ICJ has been to double down on its breaches of the UN Charter and international law. It has violated the inviolability of UN premises by unlawfully seizing UNRWA's compound in occupied East Jerusalem, removing the UN flag, and raising the Israeli flag over it. The compound is now occupied, as is the city in which it stands. We welcome the overwhelming support for the renewal of UNRWA's mandate and for the resolution following up on the ICJ advisory opinion, and we call for this support to be translated into concrete measures, enabling the agency to continue its vital work in Gaza, East Jerusalem, and the rest of the West Bank, and all other fields of operation in Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria in support of the Palestinian refugees. Mr. President, more than 70,000 Palestinians have been killed. Hundreds of thousands have been injured or maimed. Thousands have been detained. An entire population has been displaced and starved. One figure captures the depth of this agony. During the final months of the Israeli onslaught, the number of babies dying on the very same day that they were born in Gaza was 75% higher than before this war on our people began. That is why no one welcomes the ceasefire more than the Palestinian people in Gaza. But Israel has yet to cease fire. Since the 10th of October alone, nearly 400 Palestinians have been killed, including many children, and 1,000 more have been injured. Victims and survivors still await relief. Restrictions in humanitarian aid persist. People are enduring a painful, harsh winter without adequate shelter, spending days and nights in flooded tents, in inhumane conditions for 2 million people, including 1 million children who have already suffered far too much. Mr. President, we welcome the sustained engagement of the US administration, including at the highest level, to support implementation of the ceasefire agreement. In this context, we welcome the visit of the US permanent representative to the region. We also appreciate the efforts of the mediators and other international partners. We welcome the release of Israeli hostages and hope for the prompt return of the body of the last remaining deceased hostage to his family. We call for the immediate release of the thousands of arbitrarily detained Palestinians and condemn the abhorrent, inhumane conditions of their detention. Nearly 100 Palestinians have died in Israeli custody in the last 2 years due to torture, ill treatment, or medical neglect. We also call on Israel to release all withheld Palestinian bodies. Israel has described this practice as barbaric when it concerned Israelis, yet it has cruelly withheld Palestinian bodies for decades. This inhumane practice must end. Families must be able to offer their loved ones dignified burial. We further call on Israel and the international community to facilitate the recovery of thousands of Palestinian bodies still buried under the rubble, the bodies of children, women, and men, of entire families, and to clarify the fate of the disappeared. Palestinian families live amid ruins, often above mass graves, without the means to retrieve or even identify their loved ones. Their anguish is immeasurable. Nothing I could ever say here can convey their pain. Mr. President, as we approach phase 2 of the ceasefire agreement, allow me to reiterate several fundamental principles. Gaza is an integral part of the occupied Palestinian territory and of the State of Palestine as affirmed by this Council. The West Bank, including East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip, constitute a single territorial unit. Their unity, integrity, and status must be preserved, and they must be unified under the Palestinian National Authority as affirmed by this Council. Israel must fully and without delay withdraw from the Gaza Strip as affirmed by this Council. This is essential for the success of any international stabilization force. Israel is confessing its aim to transform the yellow line into a border and to partition and annex Gaza, and continues to pursue the forced displacement of its population. This must end. There must be one independent and sovereign Palestinian state, one government, one law, and one legitimate security force across the Palestinian territory. The Palestinian National Authority, the government of the State of Palestine, is always ready to continue carrying its responsibility as it relates to our people and to our land in all components of the land of the State of Palestine, including the Gaza Strip. These principles are fully consistent with three core tenets articulated in President Trump's plan: no forced displacement, no occupation, and no annexation. Let me repeat: no forced displacement, no occupation, and no annexation. These are the words of President Trump. Mr. President, the unprecedented escalation of settler violence terrorizing Palestinian communities must be understood in the context of Israel's continual policy of displacement and replacement of our people. It is inseparable from settlement expansion, which has reached record levels with more than 47,000 housing units advanced, approved, or tendered in 2025 alone. This violence unfolds alongside home demolitions by the hundreds, destructions of infrastructure, and uprooting of entire communities from northern West Bank refugee camps to the South Hebron Hills, from East Jerusalem to the Jordan Valley. Settler militias acting hand in hand with the occupying army, systematically targeting our people. The objective is clear and unchanging: annexation. It is evident in East Jerusalem, the E1 area, and the Jordan Valley. It aims at destroying the territorial integrity of the Palestinian state, and with it, any chance for a just peace. This objective is openly declared by Israeli leaders and reflected in Knesset legislation, military orders, and daily actions on the ground. These are facts. The Security Council has been clear. Resolution 2334 reaffirming in unequivocal terms the Council's rejection of Israel's illegal settlement activities and annexation attempts, and demanding for their immediate and complete cessation. This resolution must be fully implemented. President Trump has been clear. There must be no annexation. This is also the position of the region and the international community. Israel must halt all settlement activities, reverse its decision to advance 19 new settlements, and ensure that the condemnation of settler violence translates into accountability, especially since such violence could not occur without the support or acquiescence of the occupying forces. The Israeli government is actively provoking escalation in the West Bank. Mass extrajudicial killings with over 1,000 Palestinians killed, mass displacement, nearly 40,000 Palestinians displaced in 2 years, widespread arrests, including of children, repeated assaults in communities, unabated incitement and violations of the historic status quo at holy sites, attacks on the Palestinian Authority, and incitement against the Palestinian people and officials, and the theft of our natural and financial resources. These policies are illegal, dangerous, and irresponsible. Israel must end, not entrench, its unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory, in line with the ICJ's 2024 advisory opinion. This illegal occupation and apartheid must be brought to an end. That opinion also clearly defines the obligations of third states. We call on all countries to comply with those obligations rather than be complicit in colonial policies that violate Palestinian self-determination and undermine all prospects for peace. Mr. President, all civilians deserve protection. All attacks against civilians must be condemned. In this context, we join all of you in condemning the terrorist attack at Bondi Beach, targeting Jews celebrating Hanukkah. Nothing justifies attacks against innocent people because of their faith. Such crimes can never be justified, and they should not be instrumentalized. We reject attempts to link such crimes to the recognition of Palestinian rights or statehood. This is irresponsible. Equally irresponsible is the suggestion that condemning Israelis' crimes somehow justify attacks against Jews. Jews are not responsible for Israel's action. Israel should not use them as shields, and no one should turn them into scapegoats. We reject any attempt to associate any religion,